how I turned this random TikToker into Wanda from the Avengers. My name is Olamide Omade. I'm a video editor, visual effects artist and 3D artist from Lagos, Nigeria. Let's get straight into this. Step 1. I upscaled the video using AI as I saved it from the internet, and so it was pretty blurry. I wanted to fix that. Since I was going to be doing VFX with this, I needed to be as sharp as possible. Step 2. I got a 3D model of Wanda from the Fortnite game files. I brought that into Blender, and I also brought the video I upscaled into Blender. Then I basically animated the character to follow her movements in real life, since I knew that I wanted to animate the character to follow her movements and basically build an environment and put her face on the character. Step 2 done. Step 3. I was done with animating her body movements. The next issue was to animate her cape. So with that, I would use a clothes simulation. After a lot of hours of tweaking and editing meshes and just trying to simulate stuff in Blender, if you use Blender, you know how stressful that is. In a nutshell, I spent a ton of time fighting with Blender till I got an end result I was satisfied with. For step 4, I moved on to her hair, and I just basically used an add-on called Wiggle Bones and made the bones in her head animate the bones in her hair. Just simple stuff. Step 5. To build the environment. At first I was doing something from my head, but then I was like, why am I punishing myself? So I just went to the movie Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness and I looked for a reference frame I could use to build a scene. I just basically took that frame, brought it into Blender and built my scene around there. Ground, trees, animated the trees to wind, added particles blowing everywhere, created a skybox that was reddish. I just tried to match the reference frame as much as I could. Now for step 6, the effects in her hand. So for that, I just went to YouTube, I searched for Wanda effect overlay blah blah blah. I found this on this guy's page and it was perfect, so I brought that into Blender, tracked it and animated it to follow her hand movements, and voila, that was done. Step 7? Step 7 was actually supposed to be me doing the particles blowing everywhere, but I did that and just basically tried to fine-tune everything and render out from Blender with about 128, I think 128 or 256, I'm not sure, samples. And that took about 5 hours to render out 1080p 60 fps in vertical mode in order to prepare it for After Effects. Step 8, I brought it back into After Effects and I was supposed to use one of two techniques to put a face back onto the character. With the first one being, either I use AE face tools, I just first of all rotoscope her face from the real video and use AE face tools to try to deepfake her face back onto the 3D model I animated, but after trying over and over again it failed. I tried to use Mocha's power mesh and it still failed. Like, I felt so dead. And at that point I knew the next thing I had to do was to go back into Blender. I went back into Blender with the face I cut out, and so I would create a plane, put her face onto the plane, make sure it was detailed by subdividing it enough times, and just basically try to put that plane with the video of her face onto the 3D model's face. I spent so many hours tweaking the nodes, trying to make the edges clean and blend with the 3D model's face. Eventually I was able to get something that was manageable, and I made the final third render, another 5 hours, and went back into After Effects. Once I got back into After Effects and I saw it wasn't perfect, there were still glitches, but I was like, this should work. I would try to hide some of those glitches with effects. So it was basically a breeze at this point. All I had to do was just add a stormy reddish sky behind her with lighting effects, which was easy because I had something like that from a project I did for a client about a year ago. It was cancelled, but it came in handy in this project, so I just basically brought it in and I made a lot of tweaks to make it match my 3D animation. And once I did that and I was satisfied with the lighting, the timing of everything, I then moved on to the next step, which was transitioning from the real video to the 3D video. Just use a simple scale, shake and glow. Once I did that, I just added fake camera movements by scaling in, scaling out, adding more shakes, using blur to add some of the glitches that was from her head moving because I just couldn't fix it. And once I did all of that, I basically just did sound effects, rendered out, and voila, I was done. I hope you understood this breakdown. Look forward to my future videos as they are going to be insane.
Gonna run from my dreams to face them every day in full gear towards them I'm racing. Walk through life like a video game pacing in no argument though, so drop debating. Yeah, I'm gonna talk about my race and then hesitate. I love myself enough, yet you call it vanity. Hey, simmer down, son, you ain't packing hot pot. Look, I know I'm alone.